Hi, I'm Lucy. If you're new to my page, I make videos on magic and mental health. And in this video, I want to talk about intrusive thoughts, self-diagnosing, and armchair diagnosing. So intrusive thoughts have pretty much become a mockery on the internet. And I know people will say, oh, come on, like it's a joke, it's funny. I have a sense of humor. I can take a joke. But there's a huge difference between making a joke and spreading misinformation. So people think that intrusive thoughts are like these hidden, sick, twisted desires that we have. They're rather things that we are afraid of doing. Intrusive thoughts are a symptom of mental disorders. Mental disorders such as autism, ADHD, OCD, PTSD, and other stuff that right now I'm not I don't remember, but other stuff, like there's this thing that I'm so afraid of doing, so I think about it in my head. You obsess about it over and over and over again, trying to figure out a way as to not to do it. And I would like to mention that I did not self-diagnose. I went to see a professional and I explained to him that I was having these obsessive thoughts. I called them obsessive thoughts because I didn't know what they actually were, and he explained to me that these are intrusive thoughts. I'm like, oh, okay, never heard of them. And the next day on my For You page, everyone suddenly had intrusive thoughts, but not the same as me. And they were all doing it for a trend, and they were convinced that intrusive thoughts were like these impulses that we had that we act on. And one person even said that intrusive thoughts are actually our intuition. It's us predicting the future. Like, no. This is why people should not self-diagnose. Because, well, for starters, you can risk spreading misinformation. And two, not everything that you see on the internet is true. For instance, there actually are some fake disorders on the internet, like spiritual psychosis. Yes, spiritual psychosis is not real. You cannot find it anywhere in the DSM-5. So I understand that there are some people that for whatever reason cannot actually get an official diagnosis, and I can empathize with that. I understand, but it still does not give you the right to self-diagnose and post about it on the internet, spreading misinformation. But if you want to look into it, like you suspect that you have it and you want to look into it for yourself and only yourself, that's fine, that's different. Suspecting and self-diagnosing are not the same thing. Like if you want to tell a family member or a friend, look, I suspect that I may have this disorder or these symptoms, I'm not sure, but I still have very strong suspicions, that's fine. That's not the same thing as posting about it on the internet and doing it for a trend and spreading misinformation. No one can self-diagnose. No one. Not even professionals. If a professional suspects that they may have something, they have to book an appointment with another professional. And I've heard people get defensive about this, like, well, I know myself better than anyone else, so I would know if I have a disorder or not, right? No, because you may lack self-awareness. And everyone in the world lacks self-awareness to a certain degree. To claim that you're completely self-aware is actually extremely arrogant. Also, there are a lot of disorders that look very similar, like a lot of disorders. So it's very easy to get them mixed up. Also, you can have traits of a disorder without actually having the disorder in itself. For one reason, our personality as human beings is very fluid. So maybe like we're hanging out with somebody and without meaning to, we're picking up on their personality and we start displaying the same traits as them. For example, a lot of people who are survivors of abuse sadly have traits of their abusers, good and bad traits. It does not mean that they have the same disorder as their abuser. It just means that maybe they picked up on a few traits. We can display symptoms of a disorder based on the environment that we are in. If we do not feel safe in a specific environment, we may display specific traits of a disorder that we may not even have, that we simply got from our abuser. And then when we finally cut all contacts with our abuser, the traits mysteriously disappear. Why? It was just how we were responding to a specific environment. Now, moving on to armchair diagnosing. So, armchair diagnosing is diagnosing someone when you are not qualified to diagnose anyone. And it's not okay to do it for the exact same reason. You could be spreading misinformation. You don't actually know if they have the disorder or if they're just, exhibiting traits of a disorder. And I know that people will say, but I can just look at the DSM-5. No, you can't, because the DSM-5 is not a list to check things off to see if someone has a disorder or not. It is a guide for professionals to use for when they are actually checking to see if someone has a disorder or not. And you can only professionally diagnose someone if they are your client. There are some disorders that are so complex that they can sometimes take years to professionally diagnose, to officially verify if this person does or does not have the actual disorder. And I've even heard someone say, well, my best friend has this disorder, suspects they have this disorder. So I'm qualified to diagnose other people with it because I know what I'm talking about, because I've seen her have episodes, I've seen her, oh my God, that is not how a diagnosis works. I am professionally diagnosed with autism and ADHD and other stuff, and that does not mean that I am qualified to diagnose other people with it. I can suspect that they have this disorder. Does not mean that I can identify it within other people. I know that people will find this hard to believe, but there are lots of disorders that look very similar to autism, which is why so many people can get easily misdiagnosed. I usually ask people, well, do you know what a disorder is? And no one can ever give me a straightforward answer. Why? Because they don't know. So you claim to be qualified to identify a disorder, but you don't know what a disorder is. As an example, in the world of therapy, a disorder is something that impairs someone to function on a daily basis, as well as other things. When I try to explain to people politely that they are not qualified to diagnose someone else or self-diagnose, they get so offended. They act as if I just insulted their entire bloodline. They act as if I told them that they are dumb, unworthy, stuff like that. And that's not what I'm saying at all. That's not what I'm saying. I'm simply trying to explain to you politely that you, who did not go to school for it, do not know how to actually identify a disorder. And I would like to mention that I don't think that people who do these things are bad people. I don't think that. I think it has more to do with pride, with not wanting to admit that you were wrong. And I get that. No one likes being wrong. I don't like being wrong. I get it. But it's still not okay to do. And I would like to mention that I also used to armchair / self-diagnose. I did not do it with any bad intentions. It's just I didn't know any better. I'm currently in the middle of getting tested for something. Because of that, I'm starting to realize, diagnosing people is actually really complicated. It's not as simple as it looks. And I wanted to explain the reason as to why I used to do it. The thing is that I went to see a lot of psychologists, a lot of therapists, and they all failed me. They just made things worse for me. I was at a point in my life where I just had no respect for anyone. It's no one was gonna have my back. I had to have my own back. So I felt that if they did not know how to do their jobs, I might as well do it. And that's why I felt entitled to self-diagnose / armchair diagnose. And yes, I know that it's really difficult to actually find a decent therapist, a decent psychologist, but it does not automatically make me qualified because I did not go to school for it. Yeah, I get that labeling things can help us humans identify things better and it can make us feel safe, but it's still not my place to do so. And yeah, that's really all I have to say for this video. If you liked it, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Blessed be. and bye.